One forbidden night, one powerful man, and one scandal that makes her the most wanted woman in the city.
If you are new here, please consider subscribing. Your one click can make my day.
The wine glasses trembled slightly on the silver tray as I weaved through the ballroom crowd. My black dress uniform clung tight, meant to look expensive but designed to make me forget who I was. Around me, New York's elite laughed too loud, drank too much, and never noticed the people serving them. This was the Stratton Foundation Gala. Old money, new corruption, and more hidden power plays than a courtroom drama. I offered a polite nod to no one in particular. Being invisible had become a kind of survival. I adjusted my grip on the tray, forcing my shoulders back like they didn't ache from the last 6 hours. The heels were part of the uniform. Elegance is expectation, the hotel manager had said. I called it cruelty. As I passed the main bar, the scent of truffle oil and overpriced champagne filled my lungs. Chloe's hospital bill sat folded in my locker upstairs like a bomb. I needed tonight's tip share. I needed rent. I needed to keep moving, because standing still meant thinking, and thinking hurt worse. Maya caught me just before I passed the silent auction table. "VIP request upstairs," she whispered. "Miller wants you." I stiffened. The upper lounge was for the kind of guests who didn't want to be seen, where curtains stayed closed and bodyguards wore earpieces. I nodded, masking my nerves. No one said no to a VIP pull, especially not staff on hourly pay. I cut through the crowd toward the grand staircase, tray tucked tight to my chest. My reflection flashed in the gold-framed mirror. Tired eyes, fake smile, game face on. At the top of the stairs, a suited man stood beside the frosted glass door. Not security, something colder. He didn't speak, just opened the door and stepped aside. Inside, the lounge was dim. Smoke hung low, thick with cigar and something spicier. Jazz played from a vintage turntable in the corner, a haunting trumpet tracing the walls. I counted 4 men, 3 seated, 1 standing near the fireplace, back to the room. The kind of stillness that made your skin crawl. Something told me the real danger wasn't seated, it was the one watching the fire. No one looked at me when I entered, not right away. I moved like I belonged, because hesitation gets you noticed. I delivered drinks to the table, careful not to spill. A man with silver at his temples murmured thanks without looking up. Another counted poker chips without glancing my way. "The third?" He looked right at me. Dark hair, olive skin, eyes like oil on water, shiny, unreadable. He studied me too long. The fireplace man hadn't moved. I turned to leave. "You," said a voice behind me, smooth as broken glass. My body froze before my brain processed. The voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It slid under my skin like a blade. I turned slowly. The man by the fire had turned, revealing a face carved from shadows. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth built for silence or violence. He wore black on black, no tie, sleeves rolled to the forearms, hands bare, no ring. "What's your name?" he asked. His eyes held mine like they didn't believe in blinking. I swallowed. "Ivy. Ivy Marlowe." He repeated my name like it meant something. Ivy. Slow, measured, like he was deciding if it fit me. "Pretty name." The other men stayed silent, the room bending around him like gravity. "You've worked this gala before?" he asked. I nodded. "Twice." "I remember," he said. But I didn't remember him. Not his face. Not that voice. I'd have remembered. "You can go," he said finally with a dismissive flick of his fingers. But he was still watching me, still holding something in reserve. I turned, heart hammering, and walked straight out. Outside the lounge, the hallway felt colder. I leaned against the wall, forcing air into my lungs. What the hell was that? My hands trembled as I clutched the tray to my chest. That man, whoever he was, radiated danger in the quietest way possible, not loud or showy, just absolute, like nothing could touch him, and if it tried, it wouldn't live long. I didn't know his name, but I knew enough. He wasn't rich. He was powerful, a different currency entirely. one that could buy fear without spending a cent. Maya met me halfway down the stairs. "You okay?" she asked, catching the look on my face. I gave her the fakest smile I could manage. "Fine. Just long night." She didn't push. She never did. We made it back to the main floor just as dessert was being served. I grabbed an empty tray and headed to the kitchen, desperate for distance. But as I passed the mezzanine, I felt it. Eyes on me. I turned my head just enough. He was there, above the crowd, watching. And this time, he smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It wasn't kind. It was something darker, approval maybe, or curiosity with teeth. I dropped my gaze fast and ducked into the kitchen, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. The stainless steel and fluorescent lights offered no comfort. I set the tray down, leaned on the counter, and told myself to breathe. Just a man, just a guest. Nothing more. But I didn't believe it, because no one else in that building could stop a room by standing still, and no one else smiled like that. By midnight, the ballroom had thinned out. I cleared empty glasses and half-eaten desserts while the string quartet packed up. The air was sticky with perfume and fading ego. Mr. Miller, the floor manager, waved me over. "VIP asked for you," he said under his breath. My stomach turned. "Upstairs?" "No, private car, side entrance." He handed me a black envelope. "You're off the clock." I frowned. "I don't—" "Take it, Ivy." "It's triple your rate that shut me up. Rent was due. Chloe's next treatment was overdue." I took the envelope. The side entrance was quiet, watched by a single man in an earpiece and black suit. He opened the door without a word. Outside, a sleek black town car idled at the curb. The back door opened as I stepped into the night. Inside, behind tinted glass, sat the man from the lounge. "Ms. Marlowe?" he said, like we'd been formally introduced. I hesitated, but the envelope in my hand felt heavy. "You paid for me to come out here?" "I requested you," he corrected. "Payment was just the language they understand." I slid into the seat, every muscle tight. The car smelled like leather, smoke, and something subtle, spice and steel. The man watched me in silence for a few seconds before offering his hand. Luciano Moretti. The name hit like a brick. I'd heard it in whispered stories, in hotel back corridors. The name people didn't say too loud. "I know who you are," I said quietly. His mouth quirked. "I figured." He tapped the glass. The driver pulled away. "Relax, Ivy. If I wanted to hurt you, you'd never have seen me coming." I swallowed hard, unsure if that was meant to reassure me. "Then why am I here?" I asked. "I don't work off hours." "Tonight you do?" He reached into his coat and pulled out a slim folder, placing it between us. "You used to be in med school, left during your 3rd year. Your sister's diagnosis lined up exactly with your dropout date. My blood went cold. You had me followed?" "I had you vetted," he said calmly. "I don't make personal contact without certainty. And I need someone with your profile." I stared at the folder, untouched. "You're mistaken. I'm not looking for a job. That's not what I'm offering." His tone stayed level, unreadable. "I need someone off-grid, smart enough to manage sensitive logistics, invisible enough to move through the right places without setting off alarms." My pulse thudded in my ears. "You want me to do something illegal?" He didn't blink. "I want you to help me keep certain assets protected." I almost laughed. "Why me?" His eyes met mine. "Because you're broke, desperate, and still too proud to ask for help." His words hit harder than they should have. I looked away, jaw clenched. "I'm not a criminal." "Neither am I," he said. "Lie." That was a lie. Everyone knew what Luciano Moretti was, or guessed. "You don't have to say yes now," he added. "I'm not offering a trap. I'm offering a solution." I glanced back at the envelope in my lap. "How much is in here?" 10 grand, he said. "For tonight's time. No strings. Just information and a ride home I should have gotten out." Instead, I opened the envelope and stayed. Inside the envelope was a smaller packet, neatly folded cash, a prepaid phone, a handwritten address, and a key. No explanation, just tools. "If you're going to walk away," he said, "do it now. But if you're going to step in, step all the way." "What's at this address?" I asked. "A safe house, neutral ground. You'll get more details there if you want them." The car slowed as we neared my block. "Why not just tell me everything now?" He smiled faintly. "Because no one makes real decisions at midnight. They only make excuses." The car pulled to the curb outside my apartment. He didn't say another word as I stepped out. The door shut behind me with a soft click, and just like that, the car disappeared down the street like it had never been there. I stood in the dark, key in one hand, envelope in the other, heart hammering against my ribs. $10,000. A stranger's name, a job I hadn't asked for. But the rent was overdue. Chloe's medication was out by Friday, and I was out of time. My apartment was dark, the hallway reeking of weed and despair. Inside, I kicked off the heels and sat on the edge of my bed, envelope open beside me like a wound. 10,000 in crisp hundreds, more than I'd seen at once in my life. I stared at the key, not gold, not ornate, just matte black metal and implications. My phone buzzed, a text from Chloe's nurse. "Medication runs out Thursday. Need to talk about options. I didn't have any. Unless I called a man whose business I shouldn't even understand." Sleep came in fits. My dreams filled with smoke and locked doors and men who didn't blink. By morning, I hadn't made a decision, only a choice not to decide yet. I slipped the key and address into my pocket and told myself I was just going to look, just to see. The address was in Red Hook, deep Brooklyn, the kind of place the city forgot. The cab driver didn't wait. The building was brick, 5 stories, windows all curtained. I found the door that matched the number, slid the key in, turned. Inside, the apartment was spotless, sparse, like a hotel suite with no personality. Neutral colors, simple furniture, and on the kitchen counter, another envelope, this one labeled Ivy. My name, written in block letters. I opened it slowly. Inside was a list, times, dates, a phone number, a note. Observe only. Do not engage. 1 hour. Details to follow. No explanation, no signature. The prepaid phone buzzed a minute later. New message, start tonight. 17th and Bayview, 9 p.m. Roof access. I stood there, note in hand, wondering when exactly I'd stopped walking away. That night, I found the building. Industrial, mostly empty offices, one security guard who didn't look up when I walked past. I took the stairs. 10 flights. My chest burned by the time I reached the roof. The city spread out before me, vast and disinterested. Across the street, another building, shorter. Lit windows, one office in particular. I waited. A man entered, thin, mid-50s, pacing. The prepaid phone buzzed again. "You're watching Henry Volkman. He launders money for the Sallow Street crew. Take photos. Leave unseen." My hands shook as I raised the camera. The camera was high-end, too high-end for someone like me. It captured everything. The stacks of documents on Volkman's desk, the men who came and went, the briefcase exchange, all time-stamped, all saved. I stayed crouched behind the rooftop's low wall, hidden by shadows and adrenaline. At exactly 10 p.m., the burner buzzed. Leave. That was it. One word. I slipped back down the stairs, heart thudding like a war drum. No one followed. No one stopped me. Just darkness, rain, and the sudden realization I'd done something real. Something irreversible. Back at the Red Hook apartment, I plugged the camera into the waiting laptop. It auto-uploaded everything. A green progress bar ticked across the screen, followed by a message. Payment received. Good work. Minutes later, a knock. I froze. It wasn't loud, just deliberate. I crept to the peephole. Luciano. Alone. Black coat, damp from rain. His eyes met mine through the glass like he knew I was there. "Ivy," he said, calm as ever. "Let me in." I opened the door because somehow the danger felt safer than not knowing anything at all. He stepped inside like he owned the place, shedding his coat, scanning the apartment in one glance. "You followed instructions." You didn't leave many options, I said, arms crossed. You could have walked, he replied. But you didn't. That tells me everything. He moved closer. Not threatening, just impossible to ignore. How did it feel? He asked. Spying on someone? I hesitated, like I was doing something important. His mouth twitched at that. You were. Volkman's been sloppy. Those images, your work, put a spotlight where we needed one. Tonight mattered. So did his approval. That scared me. Luciano took a seat, uninvited, and loosened his collar. He looked tired, more man than myth. I don't bring outsiders in, he said. Ever. But you? He paused. You don't flinch. You calculate. You survive. I wait tables, I replied. I serve shrimp canapes to billionaires. He shook his head. No, that's what you do. Not who you are. Silence stretched between us, heavy, intimate. You're not afraid of me, he said quietly. I looked him dead in the eye. That's not true. I'm just good at hiding it. He smiled. This time it was real. He didn't stay long, just enough to leave the sense that something had shifted between us. After he left, I sat in silence, staring at the door. That smile, brief, genuine, nothing like the mask he wore in public, was still burned into my mind. This man was dangerous, yes, but also controlled, strategic, and for some reason, he'd chosen me. I should have felt used. Instead, I felt seen. The burner buzzed again. New message. Stand by for next assignment. I turned off the lights, crawled into bed, and didn't sleep for hours. The second job came 2 nights later. Same drill. A burner message, an address, a time, another rooftop, another camera. Different target. This one younger, mid-30s, flashy suit, cheap swagger. He met with 2 men I didn't recognize. There were handshakes, envelopes, a tablet passed around. I caught everything. Details I didn't understand but knew were valuable. By the time I slipped back down the fire escape, I wasn't shaking anymore, just wired, alive. I uploaded the footage, sat back, and waited. No knock this time, just another message. Well done. Payment deposited. Ivy Marlowe, hotel cocktail server, med school dropout. Unofficial operative for a man who probably had bodies buried in 5 boroughs. What the hell was I doing? I tried to remind myself this was temporary. A bridge. But bridges could collapse. The burner buzzed again. Be ready Friday. Formal event. Black dress. You'll be visible. My stomach flipped. Visible meant I wasn't watching anymore. I'd be part of something. I texted Maya for shift coverage. Told Chloe I picked up catering work. A lie, but one that bought us both more time. Friday night came fast. The dress waiting in the closet was designer, still tagged, still perfect. Black silk, off-shoulder, fit like it had been measured in a dream. The shoes were sharper than stilettos, the clutch empty except for the burner phone and a new ID card with my name beside a fake catering company logo. I met the driver outside at 7:45. He didn't speak, just opened the door. Inside, of course, was Luciano. He looked at me like he'd already known how I'd show up. You clean up well, he said. You expected me to come, I said. It wasn't a question. No, Luciano replied, but I hoped you would. We didn't speak for the first 10 minutes of the drive. Just silence, the hum of tires, and the weight of choices I hadn't fully made. Finally, he handed me a velvet box. Wear this. Inside, earpiece and mic disguised as a drop earring. You'll be circulating, serving, listening. What am I listening for? Names, deals, anything tied to Vasari Holdings. I nodded slowly. This wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was infiltration. The event was held in an art museum, private rental, closed to the public. Inside, the air reeked of money and manipulation. Wealth wore diamonds. Power wore silence. I moved through the crowd with practiced grace, offering champagne, collecting whispers. Through the earpiece, Luciano's voice guided me. Left balcony, group of 3, get closer. His voice was calm, surgical. I did what he said, No questions, no hesitation. I heard things I shouldn't. Stock movements, shipping routes, bribes disguised as donations. I was invisible in heels and silk. No one suspected the waitress. Halfway through the night, I spotted someone who did notice me. A man by the bar, older, sharp suit, sharper smile. He watched me too long. When I brought him a drink, he leaned in. "You're not really with the catering staff, are you?" I froze. "Excuse me?" "Don't worry," he said, swirling his glass. "I have no interest in interfering." "Just curious." He raised a glass in mock salute and turned away. In my ear, Luciano's voice came fast. "Get his name." Now I circled back, heart pounding, smile fixed tight. "Refill, sir?" I asked, channeling poise I didn't feel. He handed over his glass. "You're good at this," he said, "but next time, pick better shoes. You're favoring your left." My stomach dropped. He was trained, possibly armed. "Your name, sir?" I asked, voice sweet. "Tell your boss I said hello," he replied. "He'll remember the voice." He walked away without another word. In my ear, silence. Then, finally, leave the floor. Now I obeyed, weaving through the crowd, pulse like a war drum. I didn't know who that man was, but Luciano did. Back in the town car, Luciano's jaw was set like stone. He didn't speak until the driver pulled into motion. "His name is Julian Crest," he said finally. "Used to be one of ours. Now he freelances. Dangerous, smart, and always has an angle." "He knew me," I said quietly. Luciano nodded. "You're compromised." No more field work until I say otherwise. I hated how relieved I felt. "So what now?" He looked out the window for a long time. "Now, I figure out who tipped him off. Someone inside's talking, and I need them silent." That night, I didn't go back to my place. Luciano took me to another safe house, this one in Midtown, overlooking the river. Sleek, modern, and cold. He stood at the window, tie loosened, eyes scanning the skyline. "I don't like variables," he muttered. "You were never supposed to be visible." "Then why bring me in at all?" I asked. "Because you don't scare easy," he said without turning. "And you see things others miss." I stepped closer. "Do you trust me?" He didn't answer right away. "I want to." That's the problem. We stood there in silence, the city glowing beyond the glass. Then, softer, he said, "You remind me of someone." I waited. "My sister," he added. "She died when I was 19. Overdose. No one helped her. No one even tried." His voice cracked, barely. "I promised I'd never let someone fall through the cracks again." I swallowed hard. "I'm not her." "I know," he said. "But that fire in you? That's what she lost before the end." He looked at me. "I don't want you burning out for a war that isn't yours." "I already stepped into the fire, Luciano," I said. "You handed me the match." He blinked once, slowly, then nodded. "Fair." He moved toward the bar, poured 2 glasses of something dark and smooth, handed me one. We drank in silence. The air between us thickened, something unspoken coiling tighter. I set my glass down first. "I'm in this now. Whatever it is he studied me, eyes unreadable. Then you need to understand, this world doesn't give second chances. It barely gives first good," I said. "I'm not asking for mercy." The next morning, Luciano was already gone. A note on the counter read, "Stay inside. Use the secure line if anything feels off. I'll contact you tonight." I stared at it longer than I should have. No, take care. No, thank you. Just orders, wrapped in concern. I showered, dressed, and wandered the apartment like a ghost in silk. Mid-afternoon, a new file arrived by courier. No return address. Inside, photos, Julian Crest, dates, meetings, a hotel suite registered under a shell company. The implication was clear. Luciano wanted me to read between lines. It wasn't surveillance, it was bait. Julian had been in contact with someone inside Luciano's operation. One face repeated across 3 different camera angles. Same woman, different wigs. Late 20s, sharp jaw. The envelope had a sticky note. "Does this look like Mara?" I didn't know who Mara was, but clearly I was meant to. My phone buzzed, Luciano's secure line. "Recognize her?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "Why?" A pause. "Because if it's her, everything changes." His voice dropped. "Keep the file close. And Ivy, don't open the door for anyone tonight." The wind howled through the high-rise windows like a warning. I double-locked the door and drew the blackout curtains. The apartment felt colder now, as if something unseen had entered with the file. I tried to read, but couldn't focus. Sleep wouldn't come either. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps outside. Not the casual kind. Heavy, intentional. My heart raced. A knock followed. Soft. Too soft. I didn't move. Another knock. Then silence. I gripped the burner phone until my knuckles ached. No message came. Eventually, the footsteps retreated, but sleep never returned. Morning light didn't feel like relief. It felt like exposure. I brewed coffee with shaking hands, eyes on the hallway beyond the door. Nothing. No one. Still, I checked the peephole twice before opening it. A new envelope lay on the floor. Plain. Sealed. No name. Inside, a single Polaroid. My face, from last night, through the window. Behind me, blurred, barely visible, was the shadow of someone else. Someone in the apartment. I dropped it, breath caught in my throat. The burner buzzed. "Luciano, do not leave. I'm coming to you, don't trust anyone." Luciano arrived less than 20 minutes later. No guards, no dramatics. Just him. Eyes sharper than usual, jaw tight. He swept through the apartment like a storm barely contained. "You locked the windows?" he asked. "Yeah." "Good. Pack a bag. 10 minutes. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they won't expect." I followed orders without arguing, stuffing clothes, documents, burner phones into a duffel. When I turned, he was holding the Polaroid. "Who took this?" "I don't know." He tucked it into his coat. "We'll find out. But I'm not leaving you here unprotected again." The new location was off Canal Street, above a closed bakery with blackout shutters. Humble, easy to miss. Inside, it was warm, cluttered, and smelled faintly of flour and old secrets. "Family owned," Luciano said. "No ties to the business." He didn't explain further, just started checking window locks and testing burners. I dropped my bag and leaned against the wall, finally letting my knees go soft. "You think they were inside," I said. He nodded. "Not think." "No, so they have keys?" "No, they have influence or leverage. Either way, it's personal now." We didn't talk much that night. I cooked pasta from a dusty box in the cabinet. Luciano poured 2 glasses of red wine from a bottle older than both of us. When we finally sat down to eat, I realized it was the first time we'd shared something that resembled a meal. Not business, not surveillance, just food, normalcy in disguise. "Do you ever miss it?" I asked. "What?" "A normal life." He watched the steam rise from his bowl. "I don't remember what that is." Then he added, "But tonight, almost." After dinner, he cleared the plates without being asked. I stood in the doorway, watching him rinse dishes with sleeves rolled, movements precise. "You clean like a guy who used to get yelled at for missing spots," I said. He glanced over his shoulder. "My mother ran a kitchen like a military unit. You scrubbed or starved," I smiled, unexpected. "And now you run an empire." Same logic, bigger consequences. He dried his hands and looked at me, serious again. "We're not safe here forever, but for tonight, you can rest. I'll watch." I didn't sleep right away. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to Luciano's footsteps pace the floor above. He was making rounds, checking windows, verifying locks, resetting whatever routine let him sleep at night. At some point, I dozed off. When I opened my eyes again, he was sitting across from me, still dressed, a pistol resting on the table beside him. "You stayed up all night?" I asked. He shrugged. "Didn't feel like dreaming." I sat up slowly. "You think they'll come back?" "No," he said. "They never left." The next week passed in fragments, moved between safe houses, briefings, whispers over burner lines. I became part of the machinery, trusted enough to carry sealed documents, anonymous enough to disappear afterward. Luciano and I barely spoke unless it mattered, but the space between us kept tightening. At night, he'd sit close, not touching, not talking, just there, like he couldn't fall asleep unless I was breathing near him. Something unspoken stretched between us, a fragile, dangerous thread neither of us dared pull, until the night I touched his hand and he didn't pull away. The touch was small, just fingers brushing knuckles, but it landed like thunder. Luciano didn't move for a long time. Then he turned his hand over, let mine settle in his palm. "You shouldn't," he said quietly. "You told me not to lie," I replied. His thumb traced a slow line across my wrist. Every breath felt louder. "This changes things," he said. "Not if we're careful," I whispered. "Nothing about us is careful," he murmured. Then he leaned in, slowly, like I might disappear. When our lips met, it was war and surrender. His kiss wasn't hesitant, it was deliberate. Like everything he did, controlled, intense, dangerous. I kissed him back with all the fear and fire that had been building for weeks. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "We don't get normal," he said. "We don't get safe. Then we take what we can," I replied. He kissed me again, softer this time, like it might be the last. And maybe it would be, because in this world, nothing stayed whole. Especially not people. Especially not people like us. The morning after felt heavier than it should have. We didn't speak about the kiss, but everything between us had changed. Every glance held weight. Every brush of hands sparked something we didn't have time to explore. Luciano took a call near the window, tense voice, clipped words, and a name I didn't recognize, Grayson Tate. He hung up and said only, "We have to move." No explanation, just urgency. I packed in 5 minutes. He drove us in silence, eyes locked on the road like looking away meant losing something permanent. We arrived at a warehouse on the edge of Long Island, fenced, gated, quiet. Inside, a table was already set, maps, files, red thread connections like a conspiracy theory made real. "Tate used to be a fixer," Luciano explained, "for both sides. Now he's freelance, uncontrolled. That makes him dangerous." "You think he's behind the leak?" I asked. "Or profiting from it," he said. "Either way, he's moving fast." He handed me a folder, photos, timestamps, surveillance logs. "He's meeting someone tomorrow." "Private marina. I need eyes there." I didn't hesitate. "I'll go." He didn't argue. He just studied my face like he was memorizing it. "You're too good at this," he said. "It scares me." "Why? Because I make it look easy?" "No," he said, "because you stopped looking scared." I didn't have an answer for that. Truth was, I had been scared every day, but fear had hardened into instinct. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was moving forward, and maybe that was more dangerous. "Come back in one piece," he said. I nodded, turned to go. His voice stopped me. "Ivy?" "Yeah?" "Be careful." The marina was quiet, sun dipping low behind rusted boathouses. I wore a baseball cap, hoodie, jeans. Forgettable. From behind a maintenance shed, I watched Tate arrive. Tall, clean-cut, smile like a politician, and eyes like a predator. A black SUV pulled in beside him. The driver stayed behind the wheel. A woman stepped out. Blonde, mid-30s, confident, too confident. She handed him a briefcase, took a folder in return. Cameras caught everything. When they parted, Tate's smile faded. He turned, just slightly, looking toward my hiding spot. I held my breath and didn't move. Tate didn't move closer, didn't shout, just stood there squinting into the distance. Then, with a small shake of his head, he turned and walked back to the SUV. I waited until they drove off before exhaling. My hands were shaking as I pulled out the burner phone and sent the files. A minute later, "Received. Return. Now." The train ride back into the city felt longer than usual. I couldn't stop thinking about the woman. Something about her posture, her confidence, it felt familiar, but I couldn't place where I'd seen her before. Luciano was already waiting when I stepped inside the safe house. He looked up from his laptop, eyes scanning me like he needed proof I was whole. "You okay?" he asked. "He looked right at me," I said. I think he saw me, but he didn't act. "That's worse," Luciano muttered. "He's sending a message." I dropped the camera onto the table. "Who was the woman?" He froze the second her image loaded. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." "Who is she?" I asked again. His voice dropped. "That's Mara, my dead sister." I stared at him, stunned. "But you said she overdosed." "She did," he said, voice hollow. "I saw the body. Then how—" "I don't know." He paced the room, restless, haunted. "That's her. The scar above her eyebrow, she got it when she was 12. No one else would know my skin prickled. Could she have faked her death? Not alone. Someone helped her, someone with power." He stopped pacing. "This changes everything." His eyes locked on mine. "Ivy, if Mara's alive, we're in deeper than I ever imagined." And I believed him. The next few hours blurred, phone calls, silent pauses, paper trails re-examined. Luciano called in 3 men, trusted, serious, silent. They set up new security, rerouted burner lines, destroyed files. "We treat this as open warfare now," he told them. No hesitation, no room for debate. I sat on the edge of the couch, watching the man I'd kissed turn colder with each passing hour. But when our eyes met, something in him softened. "You okay?" he asked again. I nodded, though I wasn't sure, because dead sisters didn't come back without blood behind them. Luciano barely slept. I watched him work for hours, cross-referencing files, redrawing maps of alliances. The name Grayson Tate kept circling back. So did Mara's. "If she's alive, she didn't come back for nothing," he muttered. "Tate's a facilitator. He doesn't move unless paid well." I studied the still image of her face again, cold, calculated. "She looked like she was running the exchange," I said. "She wasn't the pawn." Luciano's jaw clenched. "Then who's the player?" That was the question, because if Mara had faked her death, this was bigger than betrayal. The next lead came from an unlikely place, Julian Crest. He requested a meet through a burner relay. One location, no backup, no surveillance. "He's bluffing," Luciano said, "testing leverage." "Or afraid of something," I offered. "Afraid of her?" We sat in silence, both playing out the angles. Finally, he nodded. "You'll go." "But not alone," I blinked. "Me?" "He'll talk to you." He's already shown his hand. I wasn't sure that was comforting, but I agreed. Because this wasn't about secrets anymore. It was about truth, and surviving whatever truth came next. We met Julian at an abandoned church near the Hudson. Gothic, ruined, still echoing with old ghosts. He stood beneath a shattered stained glass window, coat draped over one arm, expression unreadable. "Did you bring her?" he asked. Luciano stepped from the shadows behind me. "She doesn't come alone anymore." Julian smirked. "Smart." He turned to me. "You want the truth?" "Fine. Mara isn't back. Not really. What's wearing her face, whatever game she's in, it's not about family. It's about leverage. And Tate's just her middleman." I asked, "Then what's the end game?" Julian's smile faded. "War." "What kind of war?" Luciano asked, stepping closer. "The kind you can't buy your way out of," Julian said. "This thing's global, corporate holdings, offshore accounts, tech firms laundering cartel money. Mara's just the face. The brain's something else, something darker." He tossed a flash drive onto the pew. "Everything I have. And now I'm out." "You're never out," Luciano said. Julian looked tired. "Then I'll run until I stop." He glanced at me. "Careful, Ivy. You think you're in control, but you're already part of the board." Then he walked out, alone. The ride back was quiet. Luciano held the flash drive in one hand like it might bite. "We can't use this until it's decrypted," he said finally. "And we can't trust anyone inside the network to do it." "Then we go outside," I said. He looked at me. "That's a risk. So is everything else." For the first time, he didn't argue. We stopped at a trusted outpost, an old friend of Luciano's named Benji, a former hacker turned security ghost. "If this gets me killed," Benji said, sliding in the drive, "you owe me a drink." Benji worked fast, faster than I expected. His fingers flew across keys while code streamed on multiple monitors. "Whoever set this up," he muttered, "they didn't want to be found." But they weren't expecting me. 20 minutes in, he paused. "You're gonna want to see this." On screen, a web of shell corporations, arms dealers, biotech companies, all connecting back to a central name, Halcyon Systems. "What is it?" I asked. Benji shrugged. "Front company, military-grade software, surveillance, weaponization." Luciano stepped closer. "Mara's working with them?" "No," Benji said. "She's running point." Luciano went still. "Mara's not just a face. She's the entry point." "Into what?" I asked. "Into government contracts, digital weapons, intelligence laundering, everything dirty that hides behind flags." My mouth went dry. "And you think she came back to finish what she started?" "No," Luciano said. "She came back because something bigger needed her." He stepped away, thinking. "We've been fighting shadows. But she is the shadow. If we don't move first, we won't move at all." I looked at Benji. "Can you trace where she'll be next?" "I can try," he said. "But it'll burn." Burn it did. As Benji cracked the last firewall, a system alert screamed across his screen. "They know we're in." The lights flickered. Phones buzzed. "Pull the drive," Luciano snapped, but it was too late. Benji yanked cables while I grabbed the files we could. Seconds later, a black SUV pulled up outside. "Go!" Luciano shouted. We bolted through the back, smoke already curling under the door. Someone had triggered an auto wipe, complete with incendiary backup. The outpost exploded behind us as we ran. All we had now was what we carried, and each other. We didn't stop running until we reached an underground parking structure 4 blocks away. Luciano slammed the trunk on a decoy vehicle and dropped into the driver's seat. I climbed in beside him, heart still racing, lungs raw from smoke. "You okay?" he asked, glancing sideways. "Ask me when we're not on fire," I said. He almost smiled. Tires screeched as we pulled out. I clutched the salvaged files like they were sacred. "Where now?" I asked. "We go dark," he said. "They just declared war." "And we're the only ones who know it." The new safe house was rural, upstate, woods thick enough to disappear in. A farmhouse abandoned and quiet, with creaky floors and boarded windows. Luciano moved like a man possessed, securing perimeters, rigging alarms, setting traps. I watched him from the porch as dusk fell, wondering what kind of man prepares for battle in silence. "You think she knows we're still alive?" I asked. "Mara always knows," he said. "That's her gift. And her curse. So what's yours?" He paused. "Surviving things no one should." Then added, "And now, apparently, trusting you more than myself." We set up a makeshift command center in the farmhouse's attic. Laptops, burner phones, the remaining drive fragments spread across an old poker table. "This won't hold long," Luciano said. "But it'll buy us time." I nodded. "Then we use every second." We worked side by side into the night, analyzing, piecing, decoding. At one point, I caught him watching me, something unspoken in his eyes. "What?" I asked. He shook his head. "You're not the same girl I met in that ballroom." "Neither are you." His gaze dropped. "Good. She wouldn't have survived this." The rain started sometime around 3 a.m., soft at first, then relentless. It drummed against the roof like a warning. I stood by the window, watching shadows move between trees. "We're not alone," I whispered. Luciano was beside me instantly, gun already drawn. "Where?" "There," I pointed. A flicker, just enough. He motioned for silence, crept toward the back door. I followed, adrenaline drowning out fear. Outside, the cold hit hard, wet leaves, mud, silence. Then, footsteps, not ours. We weren't alone, and whoever was out there wasn't here to talk. The moon cut through the trees in slivers, lighting just enough to feel hunted. Luciano signaled for me to stay low. We moved through the brush, quiet, slow, trained. Then a rustle, too close. He turned just as the figure stepped out, gun raised. "Drop it," Luciano ordered. The man hesitated, young, wired with panic. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "Then you're in the wrong place," I snapped. "I have a message," he said, lowering the weapon slightly. "From Mara." That changed everything. Luciano's eyes narrowed. "Say one wrong word," he warned, "and you don't leave breathing." The man raised his hands. "She wants a meet. 1-on-1. Neutral ground," Luciano scoffed. "There is no neutral." "She says you'll know the place." The greenhouse, I saw Luciano flinch, just barely. "She said you'd come, if you still remembered." He looked away for a second, then nodded once. "Tell her I'll be there." "Alone." "No," I said instantly. "You're not walking into that blind." "I don't have a choice," he said. "Yes, you do." "Bring me." He studied me, conflict hard in his expression. "If I take you, Ivy, this becomes something else." "What do you mean?" I asked. "This stops being strategy. It becomes personal, dangerous." "It already is," I said. "You told me not to flinch." I'm not. His jaw worked. "You come, you follow my lead. No risks, no moves unless I say deal," I said, even though I already knew I'd break that rule if it came to protecting him. We packed what we needed, minimal gear, low profile. The greenhouse wasn't far, an old family property. Luciano hadn't been there in years. "She's setting a trap," he muttered. "But I need to see her." We reached the greenhouse just after dawn, fog curling around broken glass and rusted frames. The place looked like time had exhaled and let it rot. Luciano led the way through the back entrance, past overgrown vines and forgotten tools. "This was hers," he said. "She used to come here when things got bad." "Why bring you back now?" I asked. "Because she wants me off balance." Inside, it was humid and still. Then footsteps echoed, and Mara stepped into view, alive, composed, and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mara looked nothing like the ghost Luciano described. She was polished, measured, cool. "You came," she said, voice like a song played one key too slow. "I had to see it myself," Luciano replied. "See if you were really breathing." She smiled. "More than breathing. I'm thriving." My hand hovered near my side, no weapon, but ready. "You faked your death," Luciano said. "Why?" "Because dying was the only way to live," she answered. "You know what they wanted from me. What they did to us. This was my escape, my evolution." "You didn't think to tell me?" Luciano asked, voice low. "You let me grieve." "You let me bury you." "You wouldn't have let me go," she said. "You still won't." "You're right," he said, "because this, whatever you're involved in, has blood all over it." She turned to me. "You're Ivy." It wasn't a question. "You've made quite the impression." "Not trying to," I said flatly. "Shame. You're wasting potential." "Why are we here, Mara?" Luciano asked. She looked between us. "Because something worse is coming. And you're either with me or in the way." "What's coming?" I asked. "An auction," she said. "Digital, hidden, military-grade AI, hackable infrastructure. One algorithm, sold to the highest bidder. Everyone wants it, governments, cartels, corporations. I'm controlling the invite list. And you want us to what?" Luciano asked. "Take a seat?" "No," Mara said. "I want you to stop the others." "You were always better at disruption than diplomacy." "You're insane," he muttered. "You think you can play puppet master with monsters?" "I've become one," she said, not flinching. "At least I'm choosing who gets to burn." Her eyes found mine. And who doesn't? We left without shaking hands. No goodbyes, just silence and distance. In the car, I finally asked, "Do you believe her?" Luciano stared straight ahead. "I believe she's dangerous. I believe she's telling half the truth." "Which half?" "The part where people die if we don't act." He gripped the wheel tighter. "This auction, if it's real, we need to stop it." "Then we go after it?" I asked. He nodded. "We go after the buyers, the servers, the brokers. We burn it down before it ever opens." "And her?" I asked. His silence was answer enough. We drove straight to the city, no stops, no sleep. Luciano made calls the whole way, looping in trusted ghosts from old days. "We need locations," he said. "Buyers, servers, anything tied to this auction." By the time we reached the edge of Manhattan, a plan was forming. I took notes, tracked names, flagged offshore shell accounts. One address kept repeating, an office complex in Jersey run by a fake logistics firm. "That's the relay site," Luciano said, "where the auction servers are mirrored." "So we crash it?" I asked. "No," he said. "We erase it." Benji met us in a parking garage with new gear, EMP units, signal jammers, tactical maps. "This isn't just risky," he warned. "It's suicide." "That's why we go in silent," Luciano replied. "No blood. No noise." "You're not killers?" Benji asked, half smiling. "Only when we have to be," I said. We suited up in blackout gear, communication lines encrypted. The plan was clean. I'd enter as a courier with a forged badge, plant the disruptor, buy time. Luciano and Benji would breach the relay room once systems dropped. No alarms, no mistakes. One shot. The building looked ordinary. Concrete, glass, disinterest. Security nodded as I entered, badge scanned clean. I moved fast, purposefully, like I belonged. In my bag, the device hummed. The floor was slick with silence, just low fluorescent lights and humming servers. I found the network room, keyed in the copied access code, and stepped inside. Cold air, blinking lights, quiet danger. I set the device under the main console. Timer, 10 minutes, no sound, no blinking, just red text, active. I stepped out, heart hammering. Message sent to Luciano. "It's live. Move." From my earpiece, "Copy." "We're in, then silence." I made my way back toward the elevator, trying to look bored. Normal. But something shifted. Energy, pressure, instinct. A man in a gray suit stepped off the elevator, too sharp, too calm. Our eyes met. "Lost?" he asked. "Delivery," I replied. "Wrong floor." "No," he said, stepping closer. "Right floor, wrong side." His hand moved toward his jacket. I moved first, jabbed his throat, kicked his knee. He crumpled. My cover was blown. "Luciano," I whispered. "I'm burned." "Finish it. Get out. Now." I ducked into a stairwell, pulling the fire alarm on instinct. Sirens blared, lights flashed. Chaos buys time. I tore off the badge, shoved it deep in my coat, and ran. Over the comms. "EMP deploying. Now." The line popped with static. Then silence. A low hum vibrated the walls. Systems crashed. The building went dark. Emergency lights flickered on. I hit the street just as the first wave of panic started spilling out the lobby doors. Luciano's voice returned, calm, clipped. "We got it. Get clear." "No tails." "Copy," I replied, breathless. "I'm out." By nightfall, we were in a different safe house. This one buried beneath an old bookstore, protected by layers of encryption, steel, and trust. Benji was already decrypting the stolen data. Luciano paced like a caged animal, tension radiating off him in waves. "We hit them hard," he said. "They'll hit back harder." "Let them," I said. "We're not running anymore." He looked at me, something unreadable in his eyes. "You're changing." "So are you," I said. The silence between us wasn't empty. It pulsed with everything we weren't saying. We were in this, too deep to pretend otherwise. At 2 a.m., Benji looked up from the screen. "I found it. The auction's access node. It's in Vienna." Luciano leaned in. That's in 2 days. Can we reach it in time? I asked. Benji nodded. If you leave now. I met Luciano's eyes. Then we go. He didn't hesitate. I'll handle flights. New identities. You trust me in the field again? I asked. No, he said. I trust you more than anyone else. That landed heavier than it should have. We weren't just partners in survival anymore. We were something harder to walk away from. Vienna was a blur of cold air and sharper edges. The city looked like history wearing armor. Luciano and I moved like ghosts. No luggage, no phones, no habits. Just purpose. The auction location was hidden inside an old opera house being renovated, closed to the public, open to corruption. No weapons, Luciano said as we approached. Only intel. And instinct, I added. He gave a half smile. You've got enough of that for both of us. Inside, men in tailored suits and women with eyes like knives filled the lobby. The war was dressed in luxury. Luciano handed me a tiny earpiece as we slipped through the mezzanine. We split up, he said. Cover more ground. You sure? I asked. No, he replied, but we don't have time to be careful. I moved toward the upper level while he disappeared down a private hallway. From above, I could see the gathering begin. 10 buyers seated in a semicircle, a screen lowering from the ceiling. A woman took the stage. Not Mara, someone else. Sharper, cold. Welcome to the auction, she said. Tonight you bid on the future, or you lose it. The presentation started. Live demonstrations, real-time hacks, control of infrastructure, satellites, communications. One man bid in crypto. Another offered political favor. I documented everything through a hidden lens in my brooch. Then the final item appeared, Project Halcyon. AI-guided threat prediction, the host explained. Nation-scale destabilization possible. The room stilled. This was the weapon. This was the crown. The first bid landed like thunder, Mara's voice over the speakers. 100 million offshore. Every head turned. She stepped out of the shadows, dressed in white, smiling like the devil. I built it. I own it. Who wants to challenge me? Panic wasn't instant. Just slow disbelief. But Luciano's voice came through the earpiece. I'm in the control room. Pull the plug in 60 seconds. Copy, I whispered, sliding closer to the staircase. Mara kept talking, working the room like a queen with teeth. Bid now, or someone else takes your future. I reached the stairwell, then someone grabbed my arm, the man from the relay building. You again, he growled. I slammed my elbow into his gut, shoved past, ran. Over comms. Ivy! Luciano snapped. You good? Almost, I gasped. Cut it. Now. The lights cut. The screens went dark, and chaos bloomed. Alarms blared. Power failed. Security scrambled. I ran through velvet corridors as shouts echoed through the opera house. Over comms, Luciano. Exit through loading dock. Southwest corner, I moved fast, dodging buyers, evading guards. Then a gunshot. Close. I dropped, rolled behind a column. A second shot. Luciano? I called. No answer. Static panic spiked hard and fast. I bolted through the door he'd marked, heart in my throat. He was there. Blood on his sleeve, pistol raised. We're blown, he said. Move. Now. We tore through the alley behind the opera house, feet slamming pavement, every siren louder than the last. Safe house? I panted. No time, Luciano said. We go to ground. We ditched our jackets in a dumpster, cut down a side street and slipped into a hostel's back entrance. The room was tiny, no windows, just 2 beds and a flickering light. He slammed the lock shut, slid down the wall. Blood soaked his arm. You're hit. Grazed, he muttered. Hurts like hell. I pulled out gauze, trembling. You saved the world. Let me save your shoulder. I cleaned the wound in silence, both of us avoiding the bigger conversation hanging between us. When I tied the last bandage, he caught my wrist. You could have walked, he said. That first night. You could have said no, but I didn't, I said. I chose this. You chose me. His voice cracked. I don't deserve that. None of us do, I said. But it's still real. He leaned forward, forehead resting against mine. Ivy, if we don't make it out, don't, I whispered. We're not dying in a $40 hostel with broken plumbing. We crashed for a few hours, wrapped in each other, exhaustion finally dragging us under. When I woke, he was already up, on the phone, whispering. Benji? I asked, voice hoarse. He nodded. He got out. Says the Vienna server was just a node. There's a backup in Zurich, so it's not over. No, he said. It's never over. I stood, stretched, ready. Then we keep moving. You're sure? He asked. You've already given up everything. No, I said. I've finally found something worth losing. He didn't answer, just handed me a burner phone. Then we fight. Zurich was colder, cleaner, meaner beneath the surface. We landed under aliases, moved like ghosts. The last server was inside a corporate vault, triple-locked, off-grid, only accessed by biometric match. No break-in, Benji said over comms. You'll need to bait someone inside. So we bait a buyer, Luciano said. We picked a name, Victor Close, private arms dealer, scheduled for a closed-door visit. My job, swap badges. Walk in as his assistant. Luciano's job? Pull the plug when the system blinked. Last mission. One shot. Everything we'd fought for led right to this moment. Getting close to Victor Close wasn't hard. He liked being seen, liked attention. I found him at a private club, posed as staff, spilled a drink, apologized with a smile. He laughed too loud, offered me a job. I accepted. The next morning, I walked into the vault beside him, playing the role, demure, efficient, invisible. When he swiped his badge, I watched carefully. When he turned his back, I swapped it with the clone. 20 seconds later, I slipped away, heart in my throat. Luciano's voice in my ear. I'm inside. Begin countdown. The vault's air felt sterile, like even time held its breath. I moved through the security hall, scanning each checkpoint with Victor's badge. One misstep and the entire floor would lock down. At the last gate, my thumbprint scanned clean, thanks to Benji's override, and I was in. The final server stood alone, humming like a live wire. I set the EMP device beneath the panel, activated the timer. 5 minutes. I turned to leave, then froze. Mara stood in the doorway. You're predictable, she said. That's why I had to see you fail in person. I didn't flinch. You came all this way just to lose? I asked. Mara stepped inside, calm, composed. You think this ends with a blackout? You think destroying one server stops a system that's already everywhere? You're bluffing. Am I? She asked, stepping closer. We're not enemies, Ivy. We're just on different timelines. You survive by destroying. I survive by becoming what? I asked. Necessary, she said. I built a future. You just want to burn it. Then I guess we're both right, I whispered, and kicked the EMP active. The room went white. I woke on the ground, ears ringing, air thick with ozone. The server was sparking, dead. Mara was gone. I stumbled to my feet, grabbed the backup drive she dropped in the blast. Luciano's voice cut through static. Ivy, report. It's done, I said. She ran. Doesn't matter. You did it. Sirens echoed in the distance. I sprinted out through the access tunnel, heart pounding like gunfire. He was waiting on the street, eyes wide with relief. I collapsed into his arms. You came. Always, he said. As long as you breathe, I come back. We didn't go back to the safe house. We disappeared into the static, ditched phones, changed clothes, paid cash for everything. Zurich faded behind us like a bad dream with sharp teeth. On a train to nowhere, I stared out the window as snow fell sideways. Luciano sat beside me, silent, bruised, alive. She's not done, I said. No, he agreed. But neither are we. Think she'll come back? She always does. The silence between us wasn't fear anymore. It was survival. Earned, scarred, and real. "We won this round," I whispered. "That's enough for today." The next weeks blurred. Low movement, deep cover, fake names. Benji funneled data through underground channels, making sure Halcyon's remnants couldn't be rebuilt. Luciano and I resurfaced slowly, cautiously. One night in Madrid, over wine and silence, he said, "I used to think I was unbreakable." I looked at him, this man who'd lost a sister, an empire, a version of himself. "You're not," I said. "Neither am I." "And yet we're still standing." "Exactly," I whispered. "We break. We bend. We bleed, but we don't disappear." He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. We never called it love. That word felt too clean for what we were, what we'd survived, what we still carried. But it lived in the small things, the way he checked every lock before bed, the way I memorized exits in every room. It showed up in bruised knuckles, quiet mornings, stolen touches. We were armor and ache, not perfect, not even close, but honest. And for people like us, honesty was the most dangerous thing of all. "Would you do it all again?" I asked once. Luciano answered without hesitation. "For you, every time." Eventually we got word. Mara was still alive, operating out of South America, rebuilding. "She's patient," Benji warned. "She won't come at you loud. She'll come quiet, strategic, let her try," Luciano said. "We don't run anymore." And we didn't. We stayed off the grid, but not out of the fight, watching, waiting, living. I started writing again, journals full of names, patterns, memories, not for revenge, for truth, for record, because someday someone would need to know what really happened, and when they did, they'd find the story of two ghosts who refused to disappear. Spring came late that year. We were in Lisbon, living above a bakery that smelled like sugar and secrets. Luciano fixed old radios in the mornings, drank espresso like it was ritual. I walked the hills, sketching places no one remembered. We weren't safe, but we weren't hunted either. One day I asked him, "If you could go back, would you change anything?" He looked at me a long time before answering. "Only the waiting." I understood. We spent so long surviving, we forgot what it meant to live. Now, we were learning. A letter came in April, no return address, no name. Just one sentence written in ink I recognized instantly. "You can't erase me." "Mara." I showed it to Luciano. He didn't flinch, just burned it over the stove and said, "Then we won't try." "What do we do?" I asked. "We stay ready." We didn't hide, we trained, we listened. But we also danced some nights. We made love without fear. We built something real in a world that wasn't. And every morning we woke up breathing was another day she didn't win. Some nights I dreamed of that first ballroom, the shimmer, the heat, the lie that started it all. I used to wonder who I'd be if I hadn't said yes, if I'd walked away. But now I knew the truth. That version of me wouldn't have lasted. She was soft, curious, untested. The woman I became? She didn't beg for peace. She carved it out, inch by inch, and in Luciano I didn't find rescue. I found a mirror, damaged, relentless, loyal. And for the first time in my life, I felt unshakably seen. On the anniversary of the Vienna burn, we left flowers on a nameless grave, one of many we owed. Luciano said a name under his breath I didn't recognize, someone he lost long before me. I didn't ask. Some ghosts deserved silence. We stood there for a long time, saying nothing, just letting the wind pass through us like memory. When we walked away, I felt lighter, not healed, never that, but stronger. Together, we had stopped a war, and whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. We'd face it side by side. That summer, we built habits, routines, things we never thought we'd have. Morning runs before sunrise, dinners we actually finished, conversations that didn't revolve around escape plans or encrypted codes. But under the surface, we were still wired tight. Danger didn't disappear, it just slept, and we'd learned how to live without waking it. Sometimes I caught Luciano watching me like he was memorizing, like he still couldn't believe I stayed. "Why me?" I asked once. He didn't blink. "Because when everything fell apart, you walked toward the fire instead of away." Benji visited in August, bringing a new identity package and news we didn't ask for. "She's quiet," he said, "but not gone. Last spotted in Argentina. New name. New face." Luciano just nodded. "Let her build. Let her stretch. We'll know when it matters." "You really think she'll come back?" Benji asked. "I hope she does," I said. They both looked at me surprised. "Because the next time she does, it won't be about code or power. It'll be personal." Benji grinned. "You're terrifying now." "No," I said. "I'm just not scared of her anymore." Later that night, I found Luciano on the balcony, staring out over the city lights. He didn't speak until I joined him. "You ever think we missed our chance?" he asked. "At what? A normal life?" "No," I said, "because normal doesn't mean better. It just means quiet. And quiet never taught me how to fight." He nodded, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a velvet box. I froze. "It's not what you think," he said quickly. "There's no church. No audience. Just this moment. Just us." I opened the box. My breath caught. Inside was a ring. Simple, dark metal. No stone. Nothing flashy. Just solid. Like him. "It's not a promise," he said. "It's a choice. Mine. Yours. Every day we stay alive, we choose again." I slipped it on without a word. It fit like it had always been mine. He didn't kneel. I didn't cry. We weren't those people. But we stood there, hands locked, hearts still heavy from the war we didn't ask for, and made a silent vow anyway. Not to be perfect, not even to be safe, just to keep choosing each other. Every day. Fall arrived without warning, brisk mornings, gold-tipped leaves, and a chill that settled in our bones. We stayed in the country that season, out past the city lights, in a cabin with more dust than furniture. Luciano cooked most nights. I read. We didn't talk about the past unless it woke us up at 3 a.m. Sometimes it did. When that happened, he'd take my hand without speaking. Just hold it. Ground us both. The world outside still burned, but inside that silence we found something stronger than peace. We found endurance. And each other. One morning, a new file appeared in Benji's encrypted Dropbox. No sender, no message, just one image. A body on a slab, face obscured, but the tattoo on the wrist was hers. "Mara." "It's a message," Luciano said. "But from who?" I asked. "A rival? One of her clients? Could be." He stared at the screen like it owed him something. Could be she finally lost. "Do you believe it?" "I believe people like her don't die quietly." Still, something shifted that day. We moved with less tension, slept deeper, as if maybe, just maybe, it was over. Winter came hard and early. Snow piled up outside the cabin, thick enough to trap us for days. We didn't mind. We chopped wood, played cards, fought once over something stupid who forgot to stock coffee. But even that ended in laughter. One night, wrapped in blankets by the fire, I asked, "If they never come for us again, what do we do?" Luciano didn't answer right away. Then, "We stay ready." "But we live." "And if they do?" "Then we fight." Like always, I smiled. "Good answer." He kissed my forehead. "I've had a good teacher." Eventually, the snow thawed. Spring crept back in. Birds returned. So did old scars. I found a notebook one morning, my own, one I hadn't touched in months. I flipped through pages filled with chaos, loss, names I couldn't forget. But then I found the last page, blank, waiting. I picked up a pen and wrote, "We lived." No epilogue, no summary, just truth. Because that was all we ever wanted. Not victory, not revenge, just survival. And maybe someday someone would read it and understand that even in the darkest places, Some stories don't end. They begin again. We moved south as summer returned, slowly, without urgency. No mission, no tale, just time. I learned how he liked his coffee. He learned I talked in my sleep. We stopped flinching when doors slammed. The weight we'd carried for so long began to feel like part of us, not something to escape. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd wake to find him watching me. No fear in his eyes, just awe. Like he still couldn't believe we got out. And I'd smile every time, just to remind him we did. A year passed. We stopped counting. Life didn't look like peace. It wasn't quiet or easy. But it was ours. We stayed moving, never in one place too long, a habit we couldn't break. But we made friends. We learned how to cook things we couldn't pronounce. We started taking photos. For the first time, we had pictures that weren't surveillance or fake passports. Just us, laughing, living. I kept writing, not code, not intel, just stories. Fiction, mostly. But everyone carried a little truth. And one day maybe the world would be ready for it. We never saw Mara again. Not in shadows, not in rumors, just silence. It was possible she was gone, or hiding, or reborn as someone else. But that part didn't matter anymore. The war she started didn't define us. It never had. We were more than the files we stole or the lives we saved. We were more than the ghosts we buried. Luciano used to say, "I was forged in fire." I'd always reply, "So was I." But now I think we were wrong. We weren't forged. We were freed. By surviving it together. There's no neat ending, no last explosion, no slow-motion kiss under fireworks. That's not how real stories end. Real stories taper. They soften. They shift into the quiet, into the mornings where no one's hunting you, into days where trust isn't a gamble. It's a given. That's where we are now, somewhere between danger and peace, between history and future. Luciano still checks the locks twice. I still memorize exits, but we laugh more now, sleep easier. And every day we make the same choice, to stay, to fight if needed, but mostly to live.